back to the Berg podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And it's Memorial Day weekend, and we are, we're here. We're talking about Memorial Day. It's one of those things that comes around every year. It doesn't need to be the only time we celebrate this type of thing, but it is a special day, and we do like to take a minute and sort of talk about what it means and
what it's supposed to mean,
what
and
it's
what it
supposed
does
to
mean.
how we use it, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you have any plans this year?
I don't have any big plans. No. So on Monday we'll get together with family. It is interesting to me. Like, it's Memorial Day, not Memorial Day specifically. I don't have a lot of like deep ties to military from folks who have served and are no longer living. Besides my grandfather, right? So my grandfather served, loved serving. But aside from that, all of my family members or close friends who have served are still living. So like, it's more of a Veterans Day celebration for me than a Memorial Day. But the ties have definitely gotten closer, right? Obviously, my sister and my brother-in-law both are civilian contractors working for the Department of Defense. And now this past weekend, Gavin commissioned and is going to be a second lieutenant in the Army. And so, like I think I've always been like relatively patriotic, but my patriotism is certainly growing the more connections I have to family in the armed service. And it does make me think more purposefully about the meaning of these types of celebrations, for sure. Yeah.
Well, it's couple things, like actually seeing it, like, hearing about it or seeing something, but like, I was just in DC and like to see the memorials and there's a million names on the Korean Wall or the, Second World War, like to see the stuff and the volume and the size of it. And then, actually we did a tour of a craft carrier just to see how, like, seeing pictures of it or whatever, but actually like seeing this stuff makes it a little bit more. It was kind of interesting. Like we're walking around these monuments and things like that with all the names on them and different stuff. And the girls were just kind of running because they were tired. And I grabbed them up because I'm like, this is not the place to run and play. Like, this is the memorial. Like, there has to be a certain level of respect. I mean, there's no, but to me, it was just like, it was bothering me that they were kind of like having fun there just because they don't know any better. But it's just like, hey, there's a lot of people around here that,
are mourning, right? Or
mourning, or they know somebody, or remembering, like, this is not the place for us to be right now. And, the detail, the amount of granite and marble and, or brass or whatever that they built the soldiers out of, that the remembrance of. But yeah, when you see it in a big level like that, where it's not just like, we all know there's a VFW and there might be like a turret or gun turret or something in a local town. But when you see the big ones, it's really even more of a understanding of what was lost in all these people, so we can have what we have today.
Yeah, it is moving, right? It's a very like sobering, somber moment to see. Like, I always get them a little confused. So the Korean War Memorial has like the brass or the bronze statues, but the Vietnam Memorial is the wall with the names. Is that right?
I believe that's correct, because there's a group of names at the but they're not the wall. Like, they're on a side. And then they say there's a million names there. And then there's the brass soldiers standing. And the Second World War has the big fountain in the center of it. That
with the plaques showing all the states around the perimeter. Yeah. When you're there though, and you see like folks who have found a loved one's name and they're like using the paper and pencil to etch it, that's always kind of like, dang. It's
sobering.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for me, the two things come to mind. First is with both my grandfathers. One was like airborne army into Italy, and the other was Marine South Pacific. And then my dad obviously was Vietnam. So when all of them passed away, that, you know, my dad and my grandfather both had the Army burial where they, you know, they bring the flag, and my grandfather, the Marine, had like the Marines with the guns and the marching and the songs and everything. So that was, as a kid and with my grandfathers, and as an adult with my dad, that was, you know, it's sobering to realize like that, you know, that they served. But one of the, when Ford said about the Vietnam War Memorial, it like came back to me like a lightning bolt, that I was there once with my dad, and I always say my dad really did not talk about Vietnam. And I was there once, and I want to tell you that he wouldn't go near it. I think he might have by himself walked in the vicinity of it to say that he had seen it, but he really wanted no parts of being close to it. He did not want to, and I don't know if it was, you know, like just the dumb luck that he happens to see, like, because he knew people that died.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, like physically there. Not like, hey, I know Joe Smith died in Vietnam.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I know, you know, I know one of the few stories they ever told me was that the bunker thing he was sleeping in got hit one time. And like the guy in the bunk across from him died and he did not. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think part of it could have been that not to see a name that was somebody that he knew, but it was, my dad ran from like nothing, but he wanted no parts of that wall. You know, it was not something he was interested in getting real close to. And I thought that was pretty, that was a realization that it was, while he wouldn't talk about it, he acted like it was nothing. We're not going to talk about it. It's behind me. It was just lurking right there that he didn't even want to touch that wall.
Yeah. Well,
so that was, I didn't think about it until Ford said it, but.
The other interesting thing is, as I was walking around those walls, made me think of the stoicism of the older generations. Mm. You know, it's just a different animal, you know, now people get on the news or they're going to tell their story, and it's just such a different, the world has just changed so much in that regard. Whereas, like, you know, the old timers would, you know, probably go to a bar or whatever they did, but they just, you know, they went about their daily life, and it wasn't a big look at me scenario where you see a different animal when you see these guys that are like writing books and stuff, and it's all about, you know, trying to, you know, my grandfather, whatever, was in no, it's not the World War II, and like, besides having like a, you know, he showed me his military uniform, but other than that, he never said a word about it. Never said what he did. Never said anything about it. That was just a different generation.
Yeah, I didn't realize my grandfather had a Purple Heart until he was older and he got a license plate that was and I was like, "You had a Purple Heart?" And he was like, "Yeah, I had a few." Like, so, you know, he was shot multiple times. They didn't talk about it, and part of that is probably it's gone now, right? Like that generation for the most part. I saw something the other day that like one of the last members of some specific team in World War II had passed away. He was like 103 or something.
Oh, okay.
But like that's gone. But it is interesting to think about that many of us grew up with grandfathers who were in World War II, and you really don't know a lot about what they did or what went on, even in grand scheme of things. And like after they passed away, then I heard like my mom or my dad would say things, or my aunts and uncles would say, "Oh, well," so like they knew, but it was not a grandstanding thing. Like I think if I had asked, they would have said, you know, like I was at this battle, I was at that battle, I was, you know, I did this. I don't think they would have been very specific. The other thing for it is the craziest one that I have is in my mom's, in my parents' house, in my mom's house downstairs. There's a picture of my dad's great uncle. That's who he's actually named after. So he's named after his dad. His dad's named after his dad's brother, who was killed in World War I. And they have the letter that the like commanding officer sent home when he was killed in World War I. And I think we talked about this probably on another podcast another year, but it's you want to talk about sobering. It does not say, like nowadays they would say like, I'm sorry. They show it in the movies. Like, I'm sorry for your son's passing. Right. And they like knock on the door and tell you. This was a letter. And the letter said he like died valiantly, like on the end of a bayonet from like, it described like him being stabbed like 8 times with a bayonet. Like it was unnecessarily descriptive in my mind. but I guess in that time they felt that they owed you, like your son had died. They owed you the explanation, almost like a police report of what happened. I mean, that letter reads more like a police report than it does anything else. And it's still on the wall. Like I know right where it is. And it's the oddest thing. You know, I mean, imagine not getting the letter, but imagine that it's your job to write the letter. And your job is to say how the person died. Like that's, you know, so that's another one that I thought about as we were talking about it. Because my family, a fair amount of them, you know, before my generation served in wars. And Erin's family goes back to Revolutionary War. So she had somebody fight, I think, in every war since the Revolutionary War in her family. Outside of Vietnam, because her dad didn't go to Vietnam. But before that, they fought in every war. Yeah. So that's what it's about.
For sure.
That's why we have off on Monday. It's what we're supposed to take some time and think about and be thankful for, that you know, people are willing to put their life on the line to allow us to live the way we live, which is far different than how a lot of people in the rest of the world live. But what we do with it is we have hamburgers and hot dogs, and we have picnics, and we go to the beach or the mountains or the lake or the ocean. You know, and that's what we do with it. For us, unfortunately, around here, as everybody is finding out right now, by the time they hear this, they'll have known it. It was hot and beautiful 3 days ago. It's going to be miserable and cold and rainy, not beach weather, but not anything weather. I don't know, unless you're like a duck, this weather's not going to be good for you. But we normally go to the beach. We're trying to figure that out. You know, obviously we have, you know, Tamara says I'm not supposed to talk about the three S's or whatever, but we are just smashed with soccer. So we're going to have, you know, I don't know, 9 to 13 games, depending on how far they make it. And if they make it all the way, then I lose everything right to Monday. I think Erin will probably go to the beach on Sunday. Once one of the kids says they should be done Sunday afternoon, no matter what. But Ford, what's your plan here for Memorial Day?
The weather is doing what it's doing, but I was actually going to say, like, it's interesting, I think, based on where you are and what happens, because we were on a military base a couple months ago to watch a Harry Blue Angels thing. And, like, middle America's patriotism is just much more visible sometimes. And it was just the most interesting thing. It was like, the good old boys with their pickup trucks and their, and they had this one F-35 go by, and everybody would be like, that's the sound of freedom right there. And they'd be like, you know, blowing out your eardrums because it was like, you know, breaking sound barriers. It's like, this is a different setup down here in Cherry Point. But yeah, no, I don't think there's anything big happening because of, you know, everything is usually, it's you know, again, it's the unofficial start to summer too for a lot of people. So this weather isn't really making you think of that. It feels like, you know, a couple of days ago felt like we jumped right to July, and now we jump back to March. So it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I feel like 2 weeks ago everyone was like, when are the pools opening? And now, like, you know, this is usually the marker, right? A lot of times, at least like community pools and stuff like that are opening around the holiday weekend, and now everyone's like, oh, seriously, we're opening the pool? It's 54 degrees and raining. So
yeah.
But yeah, no big plans for us. Going to spend some time with family over the weekend. Allie and I are going to go to Pittsburgh this evening, come home on Sunday, have lunch with my brother-in-law and my sister on Sunday. So, but yeah, pretty low key.
Pretty low key. It's pretty low key for all of us. So we'll see. It's you know, I think that's where I'm going to be for a little while.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, Ford, on a separate note, Mara moved up. Like, we're not even, they call it moving up. I'm calling it, she didn't graduate. Graduated right. 8th grade or I mean, like, I guess 8th grade, technically you can graduate. But for me, it's high school or college is really graduation. But she had her moving up thing. It was you want to talk about sobering, is to see you know, Brian's already there. So Brian's running out of high school years at this point. You're moving on to a different level.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see, you know, I feel like it was a day ago that my kids were, you know, same age as Ford's kids. And you and I talked about that you felt that way as my kids were growing up. You're like, it's going to happen real fast.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to try and enjoy the holiday as it is, because it's, the 18 Christmases. So you got 18 chances.
Yep, exactly. Well, thanks for joining us today, folks. That's probably a good place to wrap it up. Hope you spend some time this weekend celebrating Memorial Day, remembering the meaning of Memorial Day, and then enjoying it with friends and family. And we hope you come back for another episode.